Member from Nipissing.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I too want to rise and speak, but I have to start off by talking about the member from Ottawa Vanier and the things that she said. Now, I know she's newer here and missed what really happened in 2011 when the Auditor General told us about the catastrophe that is the Green Energy Act and what it would do to Ontario many, many years later. And in 2011, he told us this thing called the Global Adjustment, how it was a small part of your bill but going to be growing into billions. And as it turned out, if you could imagine, here we are 6 years later, and he forecast from a few $100 million to $7 or $8 billion. He was off by only a few dollars, if you could imagine, on billions of dollars forecasting 6 years out. That was our former Auditor General and the exactness that he spoke of. But it's funny, the member from Ottawa Vanier said, you know, remember there was a recession in 2008, and so we decided we'd have this sale of assets. And I'm thinking, well, the sale of assets wasn't even in the 2014 budget. It spoke about one-time assets such as selling the GM shares and getting them back, and there was some property on the lakefront they were going to sell off, a couple of buildings, that type of thing. But it was really a small amount of money. But here we are later, a year later, and Speaker, they decided to go ahead with the sale of Hydro One, which was not in their plan, and add billions of dollars in one-time sale of assets. So we know that they use that to artificially balance their budget. The member from Ottawa Vanier says they sold assets to invest in the economy. She said, we sold assets to bring cash to invest in the economy. Well, you know, this was to solve the 2008 recession. Meanwhile, every other province was out of recession very quickly and very early. And here, Ontario, the laggard that we are because of our high energy rates, ended up becoming in a problem. Now, we also heard that you know, we have all this surplus power because the economy changed. Well, I can tell the member and any of the members from the Liberals the economy changed because we have the highest energy rates and we lost 300,000 jobs in manufacturing. You killed off 300,000 manufacturing jobs. It's no big surprise that we have this change in the economy. So, you know, when I hear that these excuses, I'm disturbed by that, Speaker. And just to make one final point on that, you know, they talked about we're going to invest all this money in infrastructure. They keep promising this, but $6 billion remains unspent just in the period of 3 years. So, Speaker, when you've got these numbers being thrown out that don't line up with facts, again, they make a great narrative, but they're not rooted in facts. The recession is over for all these other provinces, and again, if you look in the 2014 budget, there was no mention of the selling of Hydro One as an asset. There was a very small asset sale that was to bring in a small amount of money. This was a complete change and a complete disaster. Now, the government continues to tell us that they have done all of these things in the hydro sector because they needed to upgrade the system. And I can tell you, Speaker, again, anything but accurate. Speaker, they tell us that they spent billions of dollars on transmission lines to upgrade the system. Well, there's a half-truth in there, Speaker. They spent billions of dollars on transmission lines, but primarily that was to bring power from these far-flung wind turbines that they have forced on communities all across Ontario, especially outside of urban Ontario. That's where they spent billions. They did not spend that money to fix the system. And even today, I actually had to chuckle, Speaker. There was a note, I have it somewhere on my desk here, where Minister Thibeault was quoted recently as saying they invested billions into modernizing the hydro system. And now that energy system has emerged as reliable. Well, you know, Speaker, I've quoted from Blackout Tracker annual report many times in this legislature, and I'm going to do it one more time, because when the government says they spent all these billions to fix the system, we know that those billions were spent on transmission lines. Here's the system today. Blackout Tracker annual report, there's such a group that does this, revealed the number of Ontario outages actually increased by 275% from just 2012 to 2015. The Auditor General, in her 2015 report, told us most of the increases come from generation, not, Speaker, what the government says from transmission. So, you know, you've got, again, a wonderful sounding story, but a not so wonderful set of facts. And I don't know how Glenn Thibeault says, the Minister of Energy says, we're the jurisdiction that led the way. Well, they led us down a path of ruin and destruction, especially to the 300 families who are out of work today. Everyone else is trying to figure out how we did it. I can tell you how you did it. You did it by almost bankrupting the province of Ontario by co-opting Ontario power generation into signing off on your borrowing, which is against all generally accepted accounting principles. We can tell you how they did it, Speaker, and it's none too pretty. So, Speaker, specifically to the report here, you know, there was a hydro Hail Mary pulled off by the Liberals, and we understand the boondoggle that they have created, but we don't buy any of the reasons that we've heard from the government on why. Thank you.
Further debate.